inside our minds is beautiful and vibrant. We're not the problem. No! Society is, so throw our own party. You're only invited if brain diversity is something you find exciting. 3 cheers to neurodivergency. Raise your cups. Hey! Positivity is non-toxic, so drink up. Here at the Rainbow Connection. Rainbow Connection.
Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to Rainbow Connection, your source for non-toxic positivity for neurodivergent brains and those who love them. I have the best conversation to share with you today. I talked to Casey from Muck Duck Studio here in Rochester, and Casey shared so many amazing insights, pieces of wisdom. I mean, the whole podcast is a freaking mic drop moment. And so I am really excited for you to hear this one. It is long, so get cozy. Maybe grab your headphones, go on a walk if the weather is nice. Just hunker down and get ready to hear some awesomeness. I will warn you that during this episode, you're going to hear one of my coping mechanisms. And so I was so engrossed in the conversation with Casey, and I just was unable to keep my mouth shut because I was so amazed by everything that Casey was saying. And so I just kept saying, about every 10 seconds. So apologies in advance if that's annoying to anybody, but just know that it comes from a place of absolute awe and engrossment. And I couldn't keep my emotion in, and it came out my mouth as a repetitive, annoying sound. So please ignore my coping mechanism for social anxiety and enjoy this beautiful conversation with Casey from Muck Duck Studio.
All right, cool. So welcome. Let's start with the basics. Who are you? What do you do? How do you identify in this weird world of ours?
Hi, I'm Casey. I am a local artist. I am an activist. I am quirky, I am fun, and I choose to not have a ton of identity labels associated with me because I feel no matter how seemingly accurate that label may be, it still somehow minimizes and dehumanizes my life here on this planet.
That.
Yeah. I am lots of things and I am none of them all at the same time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. We contain multitudes.
Multitudes.
Yeah.
Multitudes upon multitudes.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Oh,
It's funky little...
so wonderful. Well, we are here in your beautiful space, Muck Duck Studios.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of what you do in the community?
Yes. Muck Duck Studio is an interdisciplinary art studio.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that no one person just does one thing. When a person is creative, they experience multitudes, and so we use every tool at our disposal to tell the story. We use dance, music, poetry, writing, quiet nothing time, unstructured playtime, structured playtime, networking, socializing, throwing parties. It's all art. It's social art.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in PDA, public displays of art.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is this what you always did? Or how did you get here to what you do now?
Love when people ask me that question because it's so funny to me that people who know me now would not know what I have come from.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a very fitting story for the neurodivergent who is currently experiencing new diagnoses and labels that say what they can and cannot do,
Mm-hmm.
and medication experiments which fluctuate the brain and the chemistry. So when I was really young, I always had my hands in way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I was always experimenting, and to a child, it feels like magic.
Mm-hmm.
And to a parent, it feels like madness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just out of control. It's unmanageable. I was an unruly, uncontrollable child. Even timeout was a benefit to me
Mm-hmm.
because I was allowed to be locked up with my imagination. So at the end of timeout, my mom would say, well, have you learned your lesson? And I would always ask for just a couple more minutes.
Oh.
And I think at that point, my mother knew that I was just a little different, a little different. And I've always been what my papa would call a notch to the left of center, a little bit off, and in a harmless way, I might add. Like, I'm the kind of different that isn't going to hurt you, but it is certainly provocative to some people. So obviously, I use the label artist to explain myself the most. I am an artist. I'm an inter-artist, nonetheless. And how did I get here? I couldn't find a single spot in the universe that I felt I belonged. Not anywhere. I just couldn't keep long-term friendships because I was annoying. I was talking all the time. My ideas were really out there. And I get fired from desk jobs a lot for misusing the printer, for missing appointments, for forgetting that my job was in a specific lane, in a specific role. And if I were to leave that role, then I would be insubordinate. Oh, yeah, consider me insubordinate. I am not the one. I'm more of an innovator. I like to draw the lines. I don't like to color within them. And there is a time and a place for both positions, a time to draw and a time to color, if you will. And I realized pretty quickly, actually, it was a slow and painful process. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree. It was like oil and water with the education system, but I really wanted to be like everybody else. I really wanted my degree so I could say I could make it, and then in theory earn an income and a salary, and then it dawned on me that meant a 50-year position in which possibly I would never leave. And I just thought it was really strange that people would consider life that type of predictable. I think if you have that type of predictability, you are probably living a privileged lifestyle. And if you have that kind of certainty out of life, my guy, if you've got that figured out and you are not playing by life's rules quite the same, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I get fired from desk jobs. And that used to be a real shame spot for me. And now it's a point of success.
Yeah.
Because I got fired from enough jobs that I decided I must have to create my own job. So Muck Duck Studio is the physical representation of me looking for where I belong. My partner will tell you, I was hungry, so I built a grocery store.
Oh, I love that.
And now everyone can eat.
Yep.
Because what I didn't know when I started this is that Muck Duck Studio represented a beacon of hope for me and a beacon of hope for many. I was not prepared for the amount of people who would come to us and say, man, I didn't know I needed this so bad. I didn't know this was missing. I didn't even know this was an option. If you're neurodivergent and you're listening to this podcast, my bet is you have some high sensitivities to stimulus. Loud, abrupt sounds, they're a no-go for some people. They don't freak me out, but they freak out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Lighting, that's my sensitivity. I have not turned on our overhead lights since we moved in. It's low lighting only.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know why it's like that. They're draining. Our environment is everything. It doesn't matter if you're quote unquote neurotypical or atypical or divergent or whatever. All it means is that we are human beings and our experiences are created by our inspirations, our stimulus. What it is that's stimulating me inspires me. And if my environment is not inspiring, I feel dead inside and I can't quite figure out why. So Muck Duck was my first step at taking my power back. I can wear the funky jewelry to work. I can have the funky hair colors without being told, well, this isn't a normal hair color. Or tattoos or crazy outfits. I wear the most ridiculous things to work and no one ever questions me.
Yep.
I'm wearing a janitor jumpsuit right now. That's perfect.
It is perfect. It literally, for those of you, I mean, nobody can see, but it is pink and it's wonderful. I love it.
Yes. And so if I was screening my 50-year career based on what I am or am not allowed to do in terms of how I express myself in the day-to-day life, I knew I was going to be miserable because I think what we're starting to learn about depression right now is that it is linked with repression. If I repress my being, my sense of being, I get depressed. I shove all of my beautiful qualities so deep down that my nervous system interprets it as cortisol, stress, constant stress. And now being in a position here at Muck Duck where I don't have a position of authority telling me what or how to do things. I just have multiple positions of accountability that other people are expecting me to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been very good for me.
Yeah.
I am not motivated by consequence, and I'm not motivated by loss or failure or rejection. None of that drives me.
Mm-hmm.
I am driven by my passion to see a world that is not yet in existence to become. I think I'm a midwife. I'm birthing a new way of doing business, a new way of interpersonal relating. And I'm also a doula. I am kind of ushering an end of eras, so to speak. We're watching a lot of different types of death around us as a culture. Systems are failing. And in the midst of that, there's only fear, terror, conflict, struggle, grinding against one another because we're so afraid to not have that 50-year predictability.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people I'm surrounded by right now who are equipped to handle variables beyond any individual that I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the people we've cast aside for so long. The neurodivergent, the diagnosed, the autistic, there's a litany of options. I mean, you pick one, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Mm-hmm.
My papa calls it the EIEIO. He goes, you might have been touched with the EIEIO. You know what? I've never been more grateful in my life
Yeah.
to have that, because it makes me stand out. And that used to be really scary because being seen was usually a position of being like criticized or
Mm-hmm.
put down or bullied. I think people are surprised to hear that I have any experience being bullied because I seem so confident.
Mm-hmm.
But my confidence has come as a result of shedding the layers of other people's expectations on how I should or should not be.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless my mother, who made the full recovery into trying to control me, into realizing I am not a controllable being.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen it work miracles.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, let people be.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like it was a journey to get here. So what did it look like for you kind of before? Did you always know you were an uncontrollable being? Or did it take time to kind of discover that about yourself? Like, did it take a while of like walking in uncomfy shoes to realize like, oh, I shouldn't be wearing these shoes at all? Like, what did that process look like for you?
Oh, it was horrible, horribly painful for the while that I was conditioned to believe I should be different.
Mm-hmm.
There was a giant chunk of my youth that was absolutely had me convinced that I was on a fundamental cellular level broken. I am so out of place that I will never find my place. And because there's no place I don't belong, why the F am I here?
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, a mindset like that basically primed me for an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sober person now. We're 7.5 or almost 8 years into a recovery program.
Awesome.
Yeah. Which is great news because my neurodivergence is just one way of saying my nervous system was coping with a lifestyle that never was ever supposed to fit me, ever.
Yeah.
I always knew that as a result of feeling, it's called terminal uniqueness. I'm so unique that I'm going to die alone.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't special. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel empowering. You know, the main character of a movie might be like, I'm different than everybody else. But then the main character goes through some minor struggle and then conflict resolution, and then they're triumphant. And you're like, well, when am I going to be triumphant? Because right now I just feel like shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel tired all the time, lost and confused. I'm constantly turning to the outside world to validate my existence.
Yeah.
I am always looking for the next boss to appraise me. I'm always looking for the next partner who's going to make sure that I know I'm loved. I'm always looking for whatever that next thing is, the seeking. It always had me looking for next, better, different.
Mm-hmm.
And it all stemmed from an internal insecurity of I am not quite right. I must change. I am different. But the paradox is that I did have to change, but I didn't have to change the way everyone thought I did.
Yeah.
The change for me was taking off the mask, taking off any role that I was filling that was inappropriate to the one that I was supposed to be living.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who's listening and wondering if you are on your own personal journey, is it actually working for you or not? like, yes, there's a period of regression.
Mm-hmm.
You come into your own person and you stop people pleasing and you stop saying yes to everything because you want to be liked. And that shit is tiring.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts so bad because on the first few tries, it feels like rejecting.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like you're rejecting other people. But if you are an alone person and you feel you're an alone person, rejecting other people can be like, oh my God, am I furthering my own isolation?
Mm-hmm.
But not ironically, you do that long enough and you just prune out the people in your life who can't really see you.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's so worried about being accepted, or you need to accept me as I am.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take, I don't think anyone has to accept anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to blatantly reject and fight back against whatever. But it's your own energy that you're using to fight.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to take that fight energy and turn it into construction.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to build. I want to build with all of any ounce of energy that I could use complaining.
Mm-hmm.
I just choose to channel into art and music, poetry,
Mm-hmm.
and community building. And we're now moving with a current of people who are leaving mainstream idea that success has to look and feel a certain way. And now we're moving in congruence with one another. And we're moving mountains as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have to accept everyone I'm moving mountains with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to respect them because they're human beings and life is hard enough
Mm-hmm.
as it is. Like, you can bet that if someone is moving in the same direction as me, I don't care if we're doing it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the other person's process is because we're moving together.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to go further together, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
I am in competition with nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I compete with no one, literally, ever.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as, like, business competition for me anymore. And I think that scares people because they're like, well, if there's no competition, who's the enemy? How are you going to grow?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not motivated by that. I'm motivated by that together unity, feeling camaraderie and solidarity.
Yeah.
And art and music and creativity will supersede any sort of divisive intents
Mm-hmm.
that are currently trying to peel us away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I won't let us be peeled away unless the other person really chooses that they cannot join us anymore or
Mhm.
be in the we.
Mm-hmm.
I know plenty of people who are still rugged individuals, and I will support people on their individual journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And then if for some reason that doesn't work out the way you think it is, we're going to welcome you back.
Mm-hmm.
There is no abandonment. We're not going to just leave you and out you because you're not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to champion the people because now I'm in a position of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a position of decision making, which is in some people's perspective an authority position, but
Mhm.
I don't govern anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're all just driving a mutual ship. But I will say getting people who are across the neuro spectrum on one unified direction is like herding cats and
Yeah.
collecting glitter.
Uh-huh.
Y'all are fascinating. And you throw me curveballs all the time. People come up with the coolest ideas.
Yeah.
And because I represent a non-judgmental, open-minded, and resilient / creative person,
Mm-hmm.
people feel really confident to pitch anything. And I welcome that entirely. I have a little mini team of people who help me screen ideas to make sure I'm not the only arbiter of what the heck goes on here. It's fascinating. People are brilliant
Mm-hmm.
and they're undertapped. And there are a lot of people sitting at home listening to this right now looking for answers. How do I come out of my own inner lockedness? Why do I feel so stuck
Mm-hmm.
inside myself?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a direction. I can't see straight. I can't seem to make a real connection with other people.
Mhm.
Why? I'm begging you to look at the things that you are doing to block your own self from the connection of others. It's the only thing we have control over.
Yeah.
I had to look at me and say, all right, Arthur, for real, where are you holding yourself up?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I holding myself back?
Mm-hmm.
My lack of follow through was a big one. I get really excited about an idea. I'll kickstart like 3 proposals and then I'll ditch the effort because the fun part's over.
Oh, I feel that. That is so hard.
Yeah, that's not sexy.
Yeah.
That's not helpful. And so I had to become really good at my own discipline,
Mm-hmm.
which was really, really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. A lot of people who have specific diagnosis would have been told, you won't ever be able to function normally.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I was told that.
Mm-hmm.
But after being on pills from 2nd grade until 18 years old, I couldn't wait to quit cold turkey and figure out what I was made of.
Yeah.
My sisters used to pay me $10 to skip my ADHD meds because I was way more fun.
Oh my God.
They were like, you're so much funny. We call it going live. I'm going live.
That's so funny.
Yes, I'm like a wind-up doll, and I don't slow down
Yup.
until I'm at 0 miles per hour.
Yep.
It's 100 or 0.
Yep.
So being told you can't ever. Okay, cool. You might not ever.
Yeah.
But you have not met me yet because I haven't met me yet.
Mhm.
I got fed up with my own shit. I got fed up with the shit of others. And it sent me off of a metaphysical cliff because I was like, all these people trying to tell me what I can and can't do, but you can't even see what I'm capable of because you're too busy zooting me on these pills. I couldn't wait to get away from that.
Mhm.
And I went live
Yep.
for a few manic years. My first few years of sobriety, I just quit everything cold turkey. I was
Yep.
like, I just need to recover
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
Psyche, mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
So it wasn't a surprise when I quit masking. A bunch of shit failed.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff died.
Mhm.
Opportunities, positions, jobs, habits,
Mhm.
people quit me
Yep.
because I wasn't playing fake anymore.
Yeah. What does it feel like? I can't even totally wrap my brain around it. What does it feel like? You said before we started recording that you don't mask ever because you don't need to. What does that feel like?
Oh my God. It feels like me not worrying about being judged about the clothes that I'm wearing to a meeting.
Mhm.
I am, for all intents and purposes in this scenario, the CEO, if
Mhm.
you want to call it that,
Mhm.
which I find so funny because I have met with millionaires to talk about funding and budgets and proposals in my painting overalls.
Mhm.
And you know what? I don't brush my hair.
Mhm.
I'm unruly. I'm a little feral. And the less I mask, the more feral I get, but the more human I become.
Mhm.
And that's what people like about me, is that I'm not playing fake with anyone.
Yep.
You might not like what I got to say, but at least you know I'm telling you the truth.
Mhm.
For me, being in a position, it's been multiple years that I have not had a boss.
Mhm.
Thank God. Because I really needed to be able to do the work freely that I need to do in our community because I want to see some social change.
Mhm.
And that's activism.
Mhm.
But my activism doesn't look like preaching or talking about it or fighting with other people to prove them wrong. It just looks like action.
Mhm.
It just looks like me putting my feet to the ground and my hands in the dirt, like ready to work.
Mhm.
I don't have to talk about it all that much
Yeah.
because I believe in attraction rather than promotion. I don't
Mhm.
promote myself really. I don't promote the studio all that much.
Mhm.
But we're attractive because we're real.
Mhm.
We are not going to bamboozle anybody.
Mhm.
And if the masking stopped working after being in an environment that was that rigorously real,
Mhm.
it became unnecessary. I mean, even the moniker Miss Casey was in some version a mask.
Mhm.
Very femme, very ladylike.
Mhm.
And you know what? I don't care what you call me anymore because I'm still going to make art.
Mhm.
I'm still going to sing, even if I'm out of tune. I'm still going to play the hand drum.
Mhm.
And I'm still going to run this studio because we've got work to do.
Mhm.
And taking all of the energy it took to mask and channeling it into art instead left me no actual energy to mask.
Mhm.
I ran out
Yeah.
of masking tokens.
Yep.
I am bankrupt, and I've never been more liberated in my life.
It's awesome.
And I couldn't encourage people more. Just let your weird out
Yes.
and be real about it, because then the anxiety stops.
Mhm.
People still judge me the way they used to. I just don't care anymore.
Yep.
People still talk about me behind my back. I
Mhm.
just don't care anymore.
Mhm.
People still think like, oh, well, she did X, Y, and Z 10 years ago, and therefore she's condemned for life. Okay, cool. You're throwing shit at a person that literally died like 4 years ago.
Mhm.
You go right ahead.
Mhm.
Spend your energy throwing shit.
Mhm.
Throw shade.
Mhm.
It has no bearing on the work that I literally have to do anyway.
Yeah.
So if the thing that's holding someone up from letting the mask drop, if what's missing is just camaraderie and just being side by side with a person who knows the journey, come hang out. I got plenty of work we could do together.
Mhm.
If you need a reason, listen, I am a firm believer that the people who have the ability to mask ongoing, I dare them to find a passion that speaks to them so intrinsically that they can't ignore it,
Mhm.
and see how long the mask can uphold.
Mm.
I could not maintain the mask and do the work I'm doing at the same time.
Mhm.
It cost me too much.
Yeah.
In Spanish, you say me cuesta. it costs me.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not cost me in money, but it costs me in energy. And energy for me right now is my currency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're in a movement right now
Yeah.
where people are choosing to come out of the shadow of their own mask
Mm-hmm.
and rigorously embrace just being seen.
Yeah.
It's the point of the podcast like this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's celebrate diversity. Yes. Because we were never supposed to be that homogenous, ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what happens when a pathogen hits a homogenous community? It wipes everyone out.
Ugh.
Diversity makes us stronger,
Mm-hmm.
structurally, socially, emotionally, and culturally enriched. There are wealthy people in our community that have no money, but holy moly, they have more than most of the people I know. Like, we got to start looking at what's in our pocketbook,
Mm-hmm.
what's in our wallet, beyond cash. What do we barter with?
Mhm.
Is it my identity? Is it the way I choose to present myself? What is it the kids are saying these days? Code switching?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, that's like a micro step on the demasking journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so if you code switch for a while and then you realize, like, oh, maybe I don't actually have to change my language at all for this person to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, then eventually you learn you can let that go and you can move on. And then you're on to the next thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's scary because then I think that the people with some of these diagnoses were very real, targeted in very real life.
Yeah.
Bullied, beaten. I know I would get bullied physically at school. People would beat me up for being unique or different or weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird to me is now a synonym for wonderful, because I'm going to reclaim that forever. I just know that we're in an upward momentum of people realizing the depths of their own gold.
Mm-hmm.
But we're trying to convince people who have been told they have none that they're full of it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't know who the hell decided that people with ADHD needed more for some reason. Like, we are so plenty. Holy crap. I'm finding that the people with the most annoying labels happen to be the most brilliant
Mm-hmm.
in an environment that supports their brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
If your environment does not support your brilliance, leave.
Yep.
Let the system crumble without you.
Yeah.
If you are that replaceable and it's that haunting to you, let yourself be replaced
Mm-hmm.
and find yourself a position that couldn't do without you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's organizations like Muck Duck Studio that need you so bad. Yeah. Because we're evolving
Mm-hmm.
as a unit right now. I think our entire history is, if you were to picture each individual strand of identity, whether it's money, race, age, you know, the intersectionality, any spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
we're all coming together as individual strands of a single braid, and we're coming into a convergence.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming into total unity right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a lot that has to shake out for us to get there. And we're in the thick of the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And where conflict is present, fear is present. And what do we do as a unit? We overcome fear. And for the neurodivergent, that means literally putting yourself back out there after being told that if you put yourself out there, you will get targeted and you will get hurt. Like, I had to overcome my fear of getting physically violated
Mm-hmm.
or losing friends or being the bad guy. And like, on my very real, like, reptilian brain, the one that's like, run from the predator, eat that food, drink that water, sleep, circadian rhythm. Like, my reptile brain was like, don't you dare
Yeah.
get seen. Because if I get seen, I'm going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get hurt, I'm going to have to nurse my wounds in private like I always do and then go on as though life is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't have that problem anymore at all. I don't spend any energy on that. It took a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be super tempting to be like, well, I could just blame the ADHD as my dysfunctionality and I don't have to take any personal accountability for the healing.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, none of us are absolved of that responsibility. And I think we all know that because we're on a personal introspection journey as a culture. A lot is being talked about in terms of like self-love, healing, reconnecting with our inner child. I mean, those are all different ways of saying, I'm going to reclaim what I buried.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no longer going to allow that to be buried.
Mm-hmm.
I am not buriable. I'm too loud.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we are loud together about positivity, not toxic positivity, but like the love
Mm-hmm.
that can be sang about, the type of love that inspires songs to be written. My God. Hate sounds like a little whisper in the corner,
Yeah.
even at its volume cranked to 10. I'm watching it happen in real life. This is very real.
That's amazing. And it's so exciting. Like, I remember I had my little, I call it like a micro epiphany, but there was nothing micro about it. Like in January, it was like, suddenly it hit me that my quote unquote neurodivergence didn't bother me. It bothered everybody else. And like, I just got smacked in the face with the sentence that I close every episode with, which is, I am not the problem. And so, but I was like left with, I just was suddenly so sure. I was like, oh, I'm going to change the world. And then I was like, it was like ... I have no idea how, but I'm going to do it. And I'm like, and if enough people like me think they're going to change the world, if enough people like you think they're going to change the world, if enough people are quote unquote delusional enough, shit's going to get shaken up. And if enough people who don't feel safe being themselves see people like you and I being ourselves unapologetically, I just hope that like more and more people will feel safe, ready, allowed to just be.
Compelled.
I love that word.
Beyond my will to resist.
Yes.
I am compelled. Yeah.
I'm a word nerd. I love that.
You can have it.
I love it. I'm taking it.
And that's how I know there's no competition.
Yep.
We could do the same thing in the exact same way in two different spaces. We still don't have enough people to reach all the people that need to be reached. Like, we could turn over every stone together and it still would be more stones to overturn. And that's what excites me about a movement.
Yeah.
Muck Duck is a physical location with a brick and mortar, but like, it's a movement. It's a mentality. People come to Muck Duck. They socialize in an intimate space that bypasses a lot of the usual, oh, what do you do for work? How are you? Hey, gotta start somewhere. But music and art has a way of being like, yo, I wrote this song because that one chapter of my life I really didn't want to live anymore.
Yep.
Cool. Let's not stigmatize that. Let's talk about that through art and music. And what's really exciting now is Muck Duck has a new partnership with art therapists. Real therapists, not the fake kind, but like certified.
Yep. Not IG and Instagram coaches, but I mean, no offense, Instagram coaches, because some of you are legit, but some of you are not.
And we love an LCSW. We do. And we love that they're becoming more accessible and the language they're using is becoming more in pocket instead of like out of network. If you get my point.
Yeah.
Trying not to throw a ton of shade at the insurance agency, but consider shade thrown.
Yep.
But what's cool is like people will come here and they'll see a ton of familiar faces. And then the people who are usually terrified to go out in public together will be like, oh, but Muck Duck will be there. And then you walk in and you see a room of 15 familiar faces and all of a sudden the room is ours. That is no public space. Like, that's our room. We are here. That's our room. And we aren't going to hurt anybody. Actually, important distinction here. There's a big difference between hurt and harm. I really do my honest to Jesus best not to harm anybody. Outright maliciousness or no coercive measures, no exploitation. Like, I do my honest to God best to respect everyone's individual human rights as a human being. Harm and hurt are very different. Hurt, sometimes you got to say things that hurt my feelings. Like, sometimes I say things that hurt other people's feelings, but it's definitely for the better. Like, hey, I know you're really excited about this topic right now, but it's really upsetting a couple of people who are not ready to hear about your personal life in such an aggressive way. Like, maybe we can have this conversation in private and we can talk about it. That's why Muck Duck is a brave space, not a safe space. We're brave because we call conversations into the light of day and into the open, and we call them lovingly into discussion. Like, I know plenty of my friends who are autistic who will just go off in any direction, and it's not because they want to cause anyone any hurt, but it's because they're learning the social skills again to have some of these complex conversations more appropriately. And I love to watch it because it gives them the communication skills they need to be heard, and it gives everyone else the security of being like, oh, I can just say, like, this is too much for me. Difference between hurt and harm. Yeah, it's a huge, huge thing for me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, growth is painful. Growth can hurt. So I love that distinction so much. And also I think that the idea of every person on this planet just being able to just be is so beautiful. But the fact that we're not all fitting into, fitting our round pegs into round holes is that our edges are going to brush up against each other, and we're going to bump into each other, and there's going to be friction, because that's life. And I feel like we've been taught and like conditioned to think that we should be striving for evenness and smoothness and frictionlessness. And I think that's one of the biggest lies we've been told, aside from, you have to be, other than the lie of normal. I feel like life should be easy and smooth and conflict free is like the number 2 biggest lie we've been told.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would sign down on that one for sure. There's definitely no such thing as normal.
No.
That is totally true. And I couldn't imagine a reality in which there's no such thing as conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, no way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our culture's facing as a unit right now, is how to have conversations that are inherently conflicting simultaneously.
Yeah.
Without there being the need for the bad guy. I think everyone's so used to pointing at something else outside of them that makes the other person the enemy. And once, talking about identity, once someone else wears the identity of the enemy, you can pretty much explain away and rationalize anything you do to that poor person.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see that on a micro example and macro examples across the board.
Yeah.
And it would be a lie to pretend that life was that binary. But our nuance requires an art of language and an art of patience and understanding and self-reflection. Where do my inherent biases play a role in the way I perceive the world? We could assume that you and I, that because we're surrounded by so many people who's neurodivergent or whatever, that the whole world is that way, or that because we're surrounded by artists all the time, that everyone is an artist. I still do believe everyone has an artist that lives in them. I think they're just tapping into that part.
I'm with you there.
But there's a lot of people who could argue with me and tell me, well, I can't even draw a stick figure. Like, but do you cook your dinner?
Exactly.
You decorate your house?
Let us expand the definition of art, like, for one thing. Let's make that definition so much bigger.
Puncture the bubble that keeps it separate.
Life is creation. Literally.
All the time.
Like, I would love to see the person who goes an entire day without creating something.
Even if it's a solution to a problem.
Right?
That is creative energy.
Or having a dream while you're asleep. Like, anything. Like, imagining what you're going to have for dinner when you get home. Like,
Planning a schedule is an act of creation. I don't care what anybody says.
Yep.
That's so true. Like, you might not have picked up a paintbrush in the last 10 years. Doesn't mean you're not an artist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hear it from every industry. I really do. And I'm privileged to hear everyone's excuses so that I can come up with real life examples on how that they are not so real.
Yep.
Demasking, again. If, so on the topic of the mask.
Yeah.
If people judge the mask that they wear themselves against the mask that other people wear, how in the world are we supposed to communicate? If you're wearing a mask, if you're masking, and I'm like, well, I'm judging that mask because it's conflicting with mine, or I'm jealous of yours. Your mask has more bedazzles. And my mask seems plain and boring, and I'm never actually seeing the real you anyway. And I'm not even recognizing that there's a real me underneath my bland-ass mask. Like, I am not my mask. I have fingernails. I am not my fingernails. I have a quirky, spicy brain. I am not my quirky, spicy brain. I'm not even my body. This is temporary. Not to get really in there, but all of this is temporary. So the fact that anyone thinks that their 50-year predictability plan should just be met is living in delusion. That's just not how life goes. And how can we equip people who are terrified of change to be ready for change when it comes to us? Art and music. That's like the only thing I can come up with as an answer.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. What does that look like? How do we fucking change the world?
We're doing it. We're doing it by having these conversations, turning stones over. Changing the world, I used to think was anywhere else but where I was. I had to go out and change the world. I had to go find where the world needed to be changed. Oh my God, can you imagine the audacity on one human being? I thought I had to go out and save the world as if the world needed any saving to begin with. Turns out there's a great game of balance that has nothing to do with me because I am so temporary. And yet I am crucial to the equation. Isn't that such a beautiful paradox?
That is wonderful.
I am precious and wildly insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
I am both. And that is really good because it means that I don't have to take my life too seriously. I can encourage people to come out for what we call an event.
Mm-hmm.
We do it through quality time. We change the world through quality time.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 3-hour event.
Mm-hmm.
And during that 3-hour event, we propose an open mic.
Mm-hmm.
But if 10 people come to this open mic for 3 hours, that's 30 hours in one evening that human beings spent not hurting each other. If you want to quantify it at its basic
Mm-hmm.
level. That's only 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have up to 40 to 50 people show up here.
Yeah.
That is changing the world because then that one person who gets on stage for the first time and cries because they're terrified and then sings anyway just inspired 7 people in the audience out of 50. Those are pretty low odds, and that's enough to change the world
Mm-hmm.
because one of those 7 people might be on the board of directors for an organization that needs creative programming.
Mm-hmm.
So then Muck Duck can be like, hey, artist, who is going to change the world? Go out and inspire people, please, on our behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And the artist says, okay, I needed to get paid and I needed a job anyway. This is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We send an artist into what I would call the lion's den. Corporate life. We're going to inspire corporate leaders to think creatively about their problem solving. So you're going to go talk to a bunch of dudes in suits about why poetry matters on their day-to-day level. And they're like looking at us like we're crazy. But by the end of an hour, they've written more in that hour than they've written in decades. They've realized something about themselves because they are listening. And they take that back into their work life and they go, you know what, maybe I can be resilient and think about these problems differently.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is at the foundation of every skill we need to function. And I think neurodivergent people are the best at creativity, whether they know it or not.
Agreed.
How many neurospicy people do you know who don't do any crafty, artsy things?
I don't even think I know real, like, quote unquote neurotypical people. Like, I just might, like, I feel like I'm going to take us on a tangent, but I feel like my leaning into who I am has so swiftly repelled and so strongly repelled the people who are not for me that I can't even find them anymore.
Thank God.
Like, I've got like this force field around me that like people who are not for me do not come within like 100 yards of me. And it has taken so much pressure off trying to find the right people because they're just they're just the ones that are left, like standing around me. I'm like, yay, here you are.
Yep.
And that, so like, I feel like I couldn't even like reach out and point at a quote unquote, like non-artsy, fartsy, crafty person anymore because they're not around me anymore.
Mm-hmm. They self-select their way out.
Exactly.
And that's the other reason there's no competition.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people who are not meant for you, they'll find someone like me or someone in my bubble and they'll be like, oh,
This is where I'm supposed
this
to
is
be.
where I belong. But we're saying the same thing. We just wear a different face while doing it.
Yep.
And that's what's incredible because when I can't reach a person, I might be able to send them to you and be like, well, maybe you're going to have better luck over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person's inspired inadvertently through not me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to be inspired again because hopelessness is a pandemic we're currently facing.
Mm-hmm.
People are hopeless. They feel no hope.
Yeah.
And hope is not a strategy, but to be hopeless, I mean, that's apathy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the eye of the storm of absolute inner desolation. I mean, like, we lose ourselves so quick.
Mhm.
And what's incredible is to watch people go from being hopeless to being hopeful again.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one connection, one phrase of a lyric or a song. I mean, I was really thinking about, like, what's one thing I know absolutely everyone could say for certain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone who doesn't like at least one song.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
Someone out there loves music. So, like, why are we treating musicians like they aren't relevant?
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny to me because I'm like, everybody turns to music when no human beings are going to be able to hear you out. Put on your favorite playlist
Mm-hmm.
and to listen to some of the lyrics. Bring people from a state of hopelessness into hope.
Mm-hmm.
That's the drug I'm after.
Mm-hmm.
That's the high I want now.
Mhm.
I want to watch my partner's lyrics reach people who haven't been reached in decades.
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch a painting take a person out of their own sorrow and into inquiry
Mm-hmm.
and wondering. People are like, well, how did the word Muck Duck Studio come about? I don't really know. It just kind of stuck, but it makes people go, I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
And if you get curious and that's it, then we've done our job.
Yep.
Some people hate our name.
Really?
I've been told, like, it just disgusts people. And some people love it. Muckling, muck duck. They're
Yeah.
like, ew, you couldn't pick something slightly more attractive? Like, no, I didn't.
Why
So,
bother?
no.
Yeah.
Paper.
Right? Oh my goodness.
But I think that's great because I think a reaction means you're still feeling.
Yeah.
It's apathy that I worry about.
Yep.
It's the people who are like, I don't feel moved by poetry or dance or music at all. I'm like, okay, we have like a way bigger problem here.
Mm-hmm.
You are untapped.
Yep.
And usually it's the people who are the most untapped and the most in despair that have the most potential for incredible expression. The more depressed you are, the more expressive potential you have.
Yes.
The degree to which a person is depressed and repressed within themselves can be matched in double in expression and light
Mm-hmm.
in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And if you do not believe me, I'm begging you, come see me for free. Like, this is not about money.
Yeah.
Come get your potential just tapped into.
Well, because at the end of the day, even depression is capacity for human experience. I mean, it's the shittier side of human experience. But like, so if you've got the capacity to feel like shit, you better damn well believe you've got the capacity to feel the opposite of shit. Like nobody, that's the thing that I just keep like harping on, like on social media. I'm like, I know people in my life who have settled for misery and mediocrity. And like, I am like, whatever you believe, like from, the most like devout Christian to the atheist, like the fact that we're here is a freaking miracle. And I cannot possibly wrap my brain around the fact that anybody, like all the crazy stuff that had to happen for me to be sitting in this chair right now, like with a body, with a brain, like I can't believe that all that stuff happened for me to be miserable my whole life or to do nothing. And I wish I could just shake some people and be like, this is not why you're here.
This is not the end.
No.
It's certainly not the beginning either.
No.
This is just this awkward middle point.
Right?
Transition. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I think for people who have embraced their uniqueness
Mm-hmm.
without realizing, I think it's, how do I say this? It's like an optical illusion.
Mm-hmm.
You and I can see the whole image because we've been on both sides. We've been suppressed and we've been expressed.
Yeah.
And there are some who only know suppression.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a suppressed person who's never known what it's like to be liberated,
Mm-hmm.
we are speaking a different language.
Yeah.
But for people who have been on both ends,
Yep.
they can see it, they can hear it, they know what we're talking about. And it's so incredible that at the basis of all of our human condition, it's just like fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is the turning point. We can either turn back into ourselves and hide,
Mm-hmm.
or we can rise above it and move through it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the tipping point of the optical illusion is the
Mhm.
fear.
What would you say to people who've only seen the one side, who haven't seen both sides yet?
You really got to go out and make new friends. Go out and make a connection.
Yep.
And show up as your authentic self to the
Mhm.
best of your ability, regardless of your measurement of it being right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your best on day 1 isn't going to look anything like day 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the first step of any hard evolution, you're backed with 100% of the inertia
Mm-hmm.
of change.
Mm-hmm.
You're resisting 100% of the change. But that first step, if you knock out 5%, that's the hardest step to take. Because you go from 100% resistance to 95%
Mhm.
resistance. And then after that, it just gets slightly easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that going out and connecting with people, connecting to yourself, and connecting with something that you are intended to construct or deconstruct for some of us,
Mm-hmm.
each of us plays a unique role, that's going to set you on a trajectory of at least like letting it out.
Mm-hmm.
Bleed the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people who have like chronic anxiety and they fidget all the time.
Mhm.
I'm like, that looks like the finger
Fidget spinners,
Fidgeting.
fidget toys, yep.
That's knitting, it's wire wrapping, it's woodworking, it's carving. You were meant to go out and you were supposed to go out and hunter-gatherer some shit for us to play with.
Yep.
Like, our reptilian brains weren't meant to be this kind of idol.
Yeah.
And I really believe that people with ADHD who have a hard time sitting down and focusing, like, it's just really clear that you haven't, like, sank your teeth into that one thing that really itches your scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever heard of the word omnipotential? Not in the church context, like omnipotent, but like omnipotential.
I can kind of infer, but tell me more about it. So yeah, we just looked up omnipotential, and one of the defining characteristics of ADHD is a limitless potential to do anything you desire if you can find a way to build and maintain interest in this area.
Yeah. So when a person with ADHD becomes fixated on the thing that they love the most and they're able to continue it, they become capable of outcomes that you would never see functioning from one human.
I just said this in like two episodes ago when I still thought I had ADHD, and again, I'm like, take that with a grain of salt. But like the way that tech companies target folks with autism for like programming jobs and stuff like that, I can't imagine if companies were targeting folks with ADHD for brainstorming jobs, directors of creative department jobs, and let them work the way they needed to, flexible hours, flexible schedule, whatever, flexible location, whatever they needed. If they said, take what you need, we will check back in XY days, time, weeks, hours, whatever, I think companies would lose their minds at the output they were able to achieve if they tapped in to the skills of people without trying to force them into boxes.
Yep.
It would just be mind-blowing.
Yep. My best creative hours, my best working hours are 2 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Wow.
I am not a morning person. I cannot stress this enough.
Yeah.
I don't function until like especially during the winter because I have a very seasonal brain.
Yep.
I don't take a meeting before noon
Mhm.
unless I literally have to. And in any other industry, that would have made me a lazy piece of work.
Exactly.
But you want to know what?
Mm-hmm.
My best ideas hit at midnight, and I need to just follow that
Yep.
because I'm very creative at midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm productive in like late afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And in any other 9 to 5 situation, we never would have seen that.
Yeah.
I always think I am not a desk job person,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated myself for being a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so glad that this is part of my success story now.
Yeah.
Because there are employers, and if they would allow the flexibility,
Mhm.
our midnight owls, like
Mhm.
they are up there brainstorming when everyone else is asleep. Like,
Mhm.
in what world does that make me lazy?
Yeah.
I don't feel bad anymore.
Yeah. Like, how can we get people to realize that if you trust somebody enough to hire them, you should trust them enough to do the work, and you should trust them enough to know themselves enough that they're going to do what they need to do to get the work done. Like, I think there's way less, I don't think there's even close to as many lazy people in the world as society and the media would have us believe.
Amen to that.
Like, there's
Mhm.
probably like this teeny tiny little but like, I mean, the number of people who say things, the number of times I've heard people say, and I feel this way myself, oh, like, I could never like retire. Like, after I retire, like, I'll have to have some, like, people don't want to do nothing.
Right.
Nobody wants to do nothing. They want their life to be easier. They want to have enough resources, but nobody wants to do nothing. And if you let people do what they love in a way that they like,
Then even tasks that are challenging become
yeah,
like menial.
Yeah.
Like, I like to think of myself as water, and I like to think of my obstacles as a chain link fence. Chain link fence doesn't stop water.
Yep.
It runs right through. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of my mental image for me as a worker person now, because I mean, there's lots of people who would tell you they're confused about what my job is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people they think they know what I do.
Yeah.
But there's no way you do, because I'm still working out what it is that I do.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a lot of people who I think I came into Muck Duck thinking that more people wanted to be that type of empowered,
Mm-hmm.
to have self-agency and personal direction. And I think a lot of people are terrified of that, actually.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And it's a lot of self-responsibility.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are not used to having so much responsibility on themselves because they're used to having a boss that you deferred to, or a doctor who told you what you can and cannot do, or a
Just a
teacher.
clear path in front of you, like a roadmap to follow, which not having that roadmap is so scary.
It can be for sure. And it does get scary even for me sometimes. And I don't even like roadmaps. I'm like a professional bushwhacker.
Yeah.
I'm like paving a whole new direction.
What's
And
over here?
yeah. And now before you know it, I'm like lost in the woods, but it's like beautiful things are being found. You know, travel the road less taken.
That's how we discovered like civilization at all. Like
And innovation.
Yes.
We don't get, if we always do what we always did, we always get what we always got.
Oh, I've never heard that said so succinctly and beautifully. That needs to be a t-shirt.
You can have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to do things different. And I think the corporate world would cash in financially and also structurally and strategically on allowing some hypermobility in their organizations, less control. I know that's scary to people in positions of power because their typical hierarchical outline would say you need to control your subordinates. What if no one was subordinate? What if we were all on the same playing field?
Yeah.
Muck Duck doesn't owe anyone anything. I don't have any people that directly report to me. I have collaborators. People work with me and through the studio to see what they want to see done in our community. And when Muck Duck is going to be in a position very soon, ideally, to pay people to be employees of Muck Duck, we're going to do it very different. We're going to see a very different working model of the way business is conducted. Just because I am in a position of leadership and I'm able to give the flexibility that I so deeply wish someone gave me.
Well, and I'm thinking back to a minute or so ago when you said like people like don't understand your job and like have like, you know, because I feel like human beings have this desire, and I understand it on one hand, to like categorize. Like that's how, I mean, you know, bear will eat me, check mark, you know, puppy will not eat me. Okay. Like we need to categorize to a certain extent, but we've gone so hard on the categorization, and like really you just need to know what's going to kill you, what's not going to kill you. And like beyond that, like we probably don't need all the categories, you know? And I feel like it gets scary for people when you can't look up the definition in the dictionary. But by you creating, and other people like you in other locations and whatnot, creating these new paradigms, as it were, we're making new dictionary definitions where the people who are scared of not having the dictionary then can say, oh, okay, I saw Casey do this. I've seen this before. I can understand it kind of. So now maybe I can like start introducing that into my workplace and my, you know, whatever. And so
Role models.
yes, exactly.
Rogue role models.
Well, and pioneers.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whatever the non-fucked up version of Christopher Columbus is, like I know, like I'm like whatever, like whoever the actual like real explorers that weren't like who weren't Christopher Columbus, but like somebody. Well, actually, I don't know. Now I'm questioning that. Like I was about to say somebody has to pave the way.
No, somebody really does.
Right. Okay.
Someone definitely has to. And even the person who's paving the new way might not know that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're professionally bushwhacking in a brand new direction. And then like, they look back and all of a sudden a bunch of people are following them because the original trail looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks very unattractive. I mean, if you were to come to any of our variety nights or our mental health open mics here, you would see a huge trend of what's being sang about, written about, danced about. We are so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And this is the brand new era of a brand new beginning. And I am so here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like, so I have been to one Muck Duck event, and that's because I was dragged along by a friend. Because ever since the pandemic, I have become like the most hardcore introvert. It's funny. I don't like introvert and extrovert because I don't think they're the most valuable terms. But like I like social, like I have super duper social anxiety. What would you say to like the other people who are like me, who are like, I feel, and again, I can only speak for myself, but like I feel in myself like this need. I'm like, I need to find my people. Like I was struck, right, a lot of stuff happened at the same time, but like I started this podcast, I had my little epiphany, I started going off Adderall, blah, 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 blah. And I just was struck with this like almost all consuming urge to like, all right, like my friends are great, like they're wonderful people, but like I need to find my people. And I have not found them yet.
Mhm.
And but I also, on the flip side, I'm just like, but I'm scared to leave my house.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that's literally like what Muck Duck was made for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We are a giant living room, and we have everything conceivable that you would need to consider yourself comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And on paper, a lot of our events seem horrifying. And I get that. Like
Yep.
a creative mixer that has a distinct start time
Yep.
and a rough end time
Yep.
and no structure in between. It's just
Mhm.
like who shows up, does whatever, and whatever they choose to do here's up to them.
Yeah.
I mean, to some people, that just sounds terrible. They don't know what to expect.
Yep. I need parameters.
Yes. And a lot of people would prefer to have a life with lots of parameters. And I can respect that. And I would like to challenge anyone who's worried, because nothing at Muck Duck's going to harm you.
Yeah.
You're not going to get physically hurt here.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, also mentally and emotionally, you're not going to get harmed here. Pain, growth, yes. But you're going to experiment with change, creativity, and self-expression in an environment that could not be more supportive. Our audience is like chef's kiss. God bless anyone who loves Muck Duck the way I do. Like, the catering of the spirit that happens here is serious magic. And there's no way to put that in social media. You cannot replicate or fake it at all. There's none of that. So my suggestion to someone in your position would be come out for some small doses. Pick a day or a time or an event that just even slightly speaks to you. Bring a friend that you think you might be able to trust and just put yourself out there in one small way. Sharing your phone number with a person and just getting tea somewhere else. Bring a song or a poem and just offer it to the community and be like, I wrote this thing. I hope you like it. I mean, it's the equivalent of me being like, I found something shiny in the woods. Look what it is.
Yeah.
Like, Casey, that's bizarre. Why would you show me that? But also, I love you, so thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, wow, cool. I got people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
You will be met here with compassion and open-mindedness, and I think those two combined are all you really need to overcome some of the fear. But the fear and the heartache of reconnecting is, in order to reconnect, one must recognize that they were at one point disconnected. That's like resetting a broken bone. If your collarbone breaks and you have to break it to reset it, of course there's going to be incredible amounts of pain and avoidance. Like, I don't want to have any of my bones rebroken so they can heal right. But in a social capacity, we're all slightly fractured and we all need to come back together, which will require a collective reckoning that we were disconnected for some time. And that hurts. It hurts because we realize how disconnected we were from our deepest selves and from others. And those blocks are what keep us stuck in the fear. That position of like, what if this never changes? The what if, that leads to hopelessness, the mental spiral of like, well, if I go and I'm rejected at a spot that's supposed to be super inclusive, what does that really make me? If I go and I show the song to a supportive audience and they don't clap, what does that make me? It makes me an oddball amongst oddballs, which is in definition like leading to isolation. But I implore people, come out of isolation, watch what a position of community involvement can do in your life. I've seen people who literally have a diagnosis of agoraphobia, literally afraid of everything, would not leave the home, come here, and now they have social lives that are blooming so hardcore that I don't even see this person anymore. It's not totally true. I see them like sometimes, but like this is a very real story. Overcoming the fear of everything, because to suffer in silence one more day is just one day too long, because it's a miracle that we're even here. And you know what? We're going to clash like crazy. I say that we get wounded in community and we heal in community. It's both. Community is going to fuck some shit up sometimes by accident. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's malicious and it's on purpose. And you know what? I can't really change that for other people. I can just control how I respond to it. And learn and grow as we're able with experience. But make that small step forward. 95%, or I'm sorry, the first 5% of 100%. Like, make the small step because it's the most important one. And if you need a season of hermitude and I'll go away, everyone leave me alone, I love you from a distance, like, trust that your community will love you through that and they'll just meet you on the other side when you're done. There are times for togetherness and there are times for hibernation. Especially because each one of us is on a unique journey of aloneness that no matter how many people we're surrounded by, we will be alone at the end of the day in our own bodies, with our own minds, and we only have to deal with ourselves. And so allow the community to be the guardian of your silence. so that when you come back, the community can celebrate what you found and brought back with you.
I've got this like big like shit-eating grin on my face. Like again, nobody can see me, but
I'm
like
cheesing too.
I'm like I've just got this huge ass smile on my face because that was just like so beautiful. Oh man, oh man. So I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I close every episode by reminding people you are not the problem. If you were going to give listeners just a nice little nugget, a nice little takeaway, a nice little gift at the end of the day, what would it be?
Become rigorously willing. Find your innermost willingness to overcome everything that your brain thinks is going to kill you. Even one nugget of willingness will help you overcome everything you thought was impossible. On just the other side of never is an entire world of possibilities.
Man, the t-shirts are just coming out today. The t-shirts are coming out.
Send them to print.
Right? Oh my goodness. Well, and I can kind of like the magic of editing. I can make anything work. Is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't touch on? Is there any message you want to get out to the world that we didn't unpack?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a constant uncovering.
Part one.
Sure.
Awesome.
This was so helpful for me to just even get it out of my life.
Yes, I love this. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on Brainbow Connection. This was a beautiful conversation. I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did. But even if you didn't, I did. So sorry, everybody. But yay, awesome. What did I tell ya? I told you it was going to be a great conversation. And hopefully it did not disappoint. This was a powerful episode, and I can't wait to put out more powerful episodes for y'all to listen to. But in the meantime, go ahead and check us out on social media. We're at Brainbow Connection Pod, and I cannot wait to connect with you. If you have a story, please share it. Tell me about it. I'd love to have you on the podcast. And if you loved this episode, go ahead and give it a 5-star rating, leave a review, share it on your social media, whatever you got to do to spread the love. I will love you forever. And I cannot wait to see you next time. Have a great day. And remember, you are not the problem.
3 cheers to neurodivergency.